Good morning. How you doing? So I say Shane Osborne. The vast majority of you are likely to say, who's that? Who are you talking about? So I'm going to tell you, because someone kindly reached out to me and brought my attention to it via email. Thank you. Because I think it's very, very important that people see exactly what this is all about. So Shane Osborne is a father who has just been arrested. In the description of this video, there is the news report that supports what I'm now talking about. But what is it, I hear you say? Well, Shane Osborne was arrested for felony neglect of a dependent after his toddler was seen and filmed by a neighbour waving around a loaded 9mm handgun. There's 15 rounds in the magazine. Luckily, no round in the chamber, as this child would be seen and caught on camera, filmed, pulling the trigger multiple times, sometimes pointing away, sometimes pointing at himself. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. But look, what do we see here? Well, what we see here is the absolute pinnacle, if you like, of parental neglect. Failings to take care of a dependent. This is with a handgun. So the child actually had a handgun. But where does it stop? Where does it end? What do we class as a weapon in terms of what could hurt a child? Is it simply things that are tangible, things that we can hold, or is it indeed situations as well? You've seen this channel grow over the last year. A few of you have been here for some time, and you will know cases that I talk about specifically with regards to children who have come to harm or despair. Now, in this case, the child thankfully was okay. He was taken, he's been returned to his mum where he lives, and we will be provided updates as and when they're available. But ultimately, the child was safe in the end. It was safe. It was lucky, very, very lucky, and that could have been a completely different story. So I ask you now just to take a few seconds to think about how you feel about that situation. How do you feel? So what if we swap out the gun, we take the gun away, and we simply give the child time away, time on a street perhaps. Perhaps a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, with no dependent around it, left in the open, in the public. What is the difference? Obviously, a loaded gun poses more of a risk than a street. But is there risk involved? And is it right that a parent who has left a child in a situation that could have ended in tragedy but didn't is arrested? But a variable on that, so the child was left in a situation that posed a danger and a risk and vanished or came to harm, are not treated with the same actions from law enforcement. Now, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't need to. Those who know, know. Those who don't, it doesn't really matter because the question remains the same. Do parents need to do more to protect their children? And simply asking you, and let me know down below, do we need to do more in terms of penalising parents whose children come to harm ultimately because of their failings. Now, I appreciate this victim blaming situation and people's mentality that, oh, they've gone through enough, they're the victims too. Hear it all the time. And my response to that is fuck off. They're not victims. And I've said this time and time and time again. And it's this mentality of painting them out to be the victims that protects them and does that to the children who come to harm. All of the future children that will come to harm because of the fact that law enforcement as a whole doesn't deal with it. Because it daren't. Because it's got that same mentality as you snowflakes. So I ask you again, because this is a huge heated debate. When a child comes to harm, if that could have been avoided by the parents parenting, should the parents then be held accountable for what happened? Yes, I'm not saying that if a child is left and walks the street and goes missing and something happens that they are charged with murder or death or causing death, but there should be something done. There should be a subcategory or some degree, and there is in some cases. Like I said in a video earlier today, there are people who are in incarceration now because of their failings to look after their children and their child has come to harm. But it would seem that that varies from state to state, country to country, and I wonder whether it should just be more broad that when you're a parent, you have the responsibility to look after your child. And if your child comes to harm when they're supposed to be in your care, then you will be held accountable. And no longer will failed parents be classed as the victim, when in reality they're not. They're simply collateral damage to their own failings, whether that be ignorance, laziness, or chemically induced incompetence. Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.